wait another minute or so here before we start. $57.
Yep.
So Kate, while folks are kind of piling in here, do you want to maybe go over some housekeeping rules on how we kind of handle this new way of doing meeting business?
I would be happy to. Lenine seems to be tied up with another important phone call. So thank you everybody for choosing to attend the listening session for the Fairbanks North Star Borough employees with Mayor Ward and Jim Williams. Some quick rules here. Keep it decent, keep it respectful. Also, if you would like to talk, please raise your hand. I will go ahead and call your name first with a go ahead so-and-so, and then I will unmute you. If you find that you're still not muted, you can go ahead and unmute yourself at that point. But once you've finished with your statement or question, I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. Please go ahead and look and see where the hand is, where you can do the raise your hand option. If you have problems finding that, Jacob Lincoln here has a slide that he's going to pop up there for you all to see on a screen share, and it'll indicate where you need to look to raise your hand. Also, I believe I said earlier, make sure you're on mute. I do it myself sometimes. You forget you're on mute, you say something and everybody can hear you, or you have background noise such as music or other conversations, and then it makes it difficult for the speaker to hear and understand. So if that's it, I'm going to keep letting people in. Mayor Ward, the floor is yours.
And the most important thing is make sure you take your microphone off of mute when you're ready to speak. All right. Thanks everyone for being here today. We did a listening session earlier this morning, and I think it went pretty well. What we found is that this tends to be a really good way for folks to be able to listen and participate in an employee chat from the comfort of your desk or home. So what we had talked about after our morning meeting was we'll probably try to bake this into more of what we do. I think it's going to be a great way to be able to communicate directly with you and hear from you as well. So I think what I'd like to do is start off and kind of talk a little bit about we've gone through a lot of changes here lately. We've had with the pandemic and then ensuing crisis. We've had a lot of changes to our operations, a lot of impact to our employees and our residents, and really we just wanted to take an opportunity to hear from you, talk a little bit about what we've done, the actions that we've taken, the reasons why we've done those things, and then hear from you on how it's impacted you and how it's continuing to impact you in your work here at the borough and in your family. So I'd like to start off by saying that as we've gone through the pandemic, there's really a couple core principles that Jim and I talk about pretty regularly, and they're really the principles that we've used to make decisions all the way through this process and continue to make decisions into the future. So the first one is that as we look at anything moving forward, operational impact to employees, impact to residents, really the thing that we are really looking at is how do we keep people working, understanding that in this time right now, we want to keep people employed, we want to keep people with the borough. How do we also provide for the safety of our employees and our patrons that come to our facilities, that are the folks that we serve in the community? And then how do we manage our resources appropriately to do those things? And so those really have been kind of the guiding principles that we've used in the decision making, is keeping people going, keeping people working, providing safety, and then managing our resources. Jim, did you want to talk a little bit at all about kind of give a breakdown of where we've been, where we've come from? It seems like it's been months, but it's only been a matter of weeks.
It has. I would say that, talking to a lot of my peers in the state and around the country, obviously we're not alone in what we've experienced, and what we've been through has been absolutely unprecedented. There's nobody planned. We had plans, but we didn't plan for this. And we basically had to make a lot of decisions very, very quickly as we went through it. And I tell you, we've learned a lot as we've gone through this. I would say it's trial by fire. There's a number of employees that in duty sections that have done just, I think, all across the borough that have done amazing things to kind of adapt to this and keep services going. But where we've been, I mean, this all started kicking off really early in the year. We started kind of getting whispers that something was happening overseas. We saw it. We were watching it. We started watching the World Health Organization, kind of what they were doing. The CDC was watching it. And by, I would say, mid-February, we were pretty tuned in that something was about to happen to not just the United States, but it was likely to happen to Fairbanks based on what we understood about the illness and what it did and what the impacts could be. And so we started planning. And then I'd say probably early in March, we started seeing things happening here in Fairbanks, and we started seeing indicators, definitely in the Seattle area. And everybody knows by the end of March, we basically had to shut down to basically bare bones operations and just keep things going. In that process, we sent about 119 people home during that May 31st timeframe on that day, as we were trying to sort out what was essential, what wasn't essential. And I'll tell you, from a planning standpoint, the word essential is a very, very loose term. It's very nebulous. You think you know what it means until you actually have to use it. And it doesn't mean a whole lot when you start putting into context what folks are doing and what they need to get done and the timelines that need to get done and what you can wait on, what you can't wait on. It became clear to us that the word essential really had a different meaning than what we were fully expecting. So along the way, we ended up sending folks home, but eventually we got nearly everybody back who felt comfortable coming back to work. We got just about everybody back to work. So that was, in alignment with what the mayor said about keeping our workforce working for as long as possible. But I think the thing to stress is one, this has been an unprecedented time. It's been like drinking from a fire hose. It's been quite busy, but it's time now to kind of start looking forward and kind of re-engaging with staff, kind of looking forward to the future, what working in this new bubble looks like with social distancing and working around COVID and trying to manage this. Just kind of looking forward. So today, what we want to do is really kind of listen to staff and not do a whole lot of talking, answer some questions. We got a number of questions at the 9 o'clock listening session, and a lot of those came in via email. We did get a few from the crowd. I think some folks were being shy, so we'll use this time to our best, and we'll. I guess Kate, now is probably a good time to take questions.
Jim, can I add in real quick, and I'll
go for it, man.
Try to make it real quick here. But one thing I want to tell everyone that's on the line today too is we are a very resilient bunch in the interior, and then specifically, I think, at the borough. And there's been one thing that I have been constantly impressed with in my time here at the borough is the innovation and the ability to adapt. I think when we look at what's happened in the last few months and the ability for you as employees to be able to adapt to these changes and innovate has truly been phenomenal. And I think there are some great lessons that we're going to learn from this on processes that we can improve on things that we can do better. And I want to tell you all, I've been very impressed. Many of you have just exceeded and excelled in this very challenging time, and I'm very much appreciative of that hard work and the efforts that you put forward to make the borough a better place. So.
Okay, before I get started here, I just wanted to remind everyone, if you have a statement or question, please go ahead and raise your hand. Jacob is put the slide up. He's screen sharing where it is on the screen. Also, I failed to mention earlier, you may go ahead and email a question to fnsblistens@fnsb.us. That is currently being monitored. And once that comes up, Lenine will read it out and for everyone to hear. And so the mayor and Jim Williams can answer it or talk to it. All right. Do we have anyone who's interested in being first?
And Lenine, if you want to maybe kind of prime the pump there, maybe shoot out one of the questions we got either from this morning or if anybody's recently put in anything new, feel free to fire away. And just so folks know, I don't know if it was mentioned, this is being recorded. We didn't record the first one, but we're going to record this one in case there's staff that just for whatever reason couldn't get on. And we have 92 staff on. That's amazing.
So we don't have any questions that were sent in via email yet. I'm hoping that folks will go ahead and send that in. And remember, it doesn't have to necessarily be a question. It can be a comment, it can be a concern, etc. So looking at the list of questions that came earlier today, let me scroll through just a sec. Here's one. I don't know that we got to this during the first section. It was talking about the demolition work that had been completed at the Maryside facility. It now needs approximately another $900,000 in repairs. Will you be asking the Assembly to appropriate funds for those repairs? If so, do you think that this is a wise use of borough funds considering the current economic crisis?
Well, that's a deal.
There, I got a little bit of that. Something about Maryside. My connection was bad. Did you get that?
Yeah, I can take that.
Okay.
So the Maryside facility, as you folks are aware, is a bit of a challenged facility. We just heard back from the work team that it looks like we're going to need additional funding for that project. We're in the middle of that project, and so the intention is to go forward and ask for additional funding from the FMR to be able to finish that. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the Assembly to decide if that's what they want to do or not, but I'm going to be supporting that. We don't have any interim solution. The circumstances haven't really changed, if you will, as far as the outcomes. I know I think that question in particular was tied to this issue with the step increases and the budget processes that we're going through right now. That's definitely a challenge. We have these different pots of money, if you will, operational, capital, et cetera. And how we manage those, our resources to include our capital, the infrastructure, and then our employees is really important. And we are going through the budget process. We have our next, the public hearing is over. We're going to be debating that on Thursday. I believe we've got a solution to be able to provide for the funding to fund the contracts that we have. Within the constraints that the Assembly has provided. So we're going to push forward both of those.
Is there anyone else out there who has a question or comment for the mayor or our chief of staff?
If not, I've got a part 3 for that question.
Fire away, Lenine.
Okay.
I heard all that.
All right, here we go. This is the third part of that question, and it was considering regarding the work at Maryside. Excuse me. If the borough has $900,000 to spare for the never-ending Maryside problems, why can't the borough use that money to fulfill its union contracts and fully fund the step increases?
So, again, good question. The challenge that we run into is the assembly is the appropriating body and has essentially two different pots. We've got the operational funding, we've got capital funding, and so the assembly can choose to fund that, and we're going to push forward. We've got an amendment on Thursday to fund the steps, and then we've got an ordinance that we're working on for Mary Sy. So. I think we've got a way to do both of those things. I think never-ending project is probably, I don't want to say Mary Sy is a never-ending project, but it definitely has required a considerable amount of resources. And that's not something that's new to the borough. When we look at our infrastructure, whether it be the libraries, whether it be the animal control shelter, whether it be our parks and rec facilities, many of them were built a long time ago. I don't want to say too long ago, but to date, many of us. But we definitely do have some challenges there with our infrastructure, and it's going to take investment. We're going to have to continue to put money into these facilities, and that's part of what we've been trying to do with the capital improvement program, which is currently on hold. I think it's scheduled to be heard by the Assembly in June. But the idea is that we start strategically working on these. On this infrastructure and making repairs and improvements to them, so we don't run into these issues where we're cracking open a building and finding things that we didn't know were there.
So we do have a couple hands that are raised right now. Donald Galligan, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Kate. First off, I just wanted to thank the borough administration and all the hard work that was put in by Digital Services in getting it so that we could all work from home during the operational closure. Those folks need to be commended greatly. That was a Herculean task. The question I have kind of revolves around that. One of the things that I've seen guidelines from the CDC and other places, other authorities, saying that we should really be looking to do more work from home. And so my question is, we've done it. We've done it for a whole month. And for some of us, it worked quite well. But there is this process in place where you can be denied the ability to work from home. And I guess I don't understand why that would be if you've shown that you can do it previously. So just wondering what the criteria are for that as we move forward.
You want to take that, Mayor?
Yeah, if you want to, Jim.
Yeah. So when we sent folks home to telework, we started trickling people out probably in the last half of March or so. We got onesie twosie started kind of trickling out, but the big push when we really started sending people home was when we had the operational closure related to the governor's mandate to basically shelter in place. He didn't call it a shelter in place; it was a stay-at-home order. But essentially it was the same thing. So that forced us to have to think on our feet and figure out a way to get people working very quickly with the tools and the resources we have. So yes, Don, you're absolutely right. It worked really well for some people, but I'll tell you that it didn't work well for other people for a number of reasons. And so the operational closure is over right now. The stay-at-home order from the governor has lifted. So with those two things kind of in play right now, we just need to step back and kind of reset the organization and go one by one through individuals to make sure that working from home, is a good operational fit. As we start to open up the borough, as we start to see more people coming to the borough for services, we want to make sure we have staff in place that conduct the right kinds of supervision. We want to make sure we got staff that are providing the right. We have the right level of staffing for interaction with the public, even though that's limited. We want to make sure we're stepping into that appropriately, and we want to make sure we're fair in the way that we do that. So that question came up at the last employee chat this morning, and I guess the message that I want to send off to staff is if you feel like us asking to kind of reset that and revalidate that, if it's making people feel bad, I really don't want that to be the message. It's not intended to be that way, and if you felt that way, I'm really sorry. I want to make it right. Really, what I'm trying to do is just to make sure that if we put somebody at home working at home, it works, and it's done right. So that's really what we want to do. Meredith, anything to add to that?
No, I think that captures it. The challenge is we had to make some really quick decisions when we went into this, and as we start to roll back into the more normal, we want to make sure that we're being appropriate and fair as we move forward. And Jim had mentioned that it works really well for some folks, and some folks it doesn't, and so we're trying to understand what decision making we look at for allowing that to happen. I think one of the things that we talked about this morning in our meeting was, there's a lot of really, I talked about innovation earlier. There's a lot of really great things that we are doing as a borough to work on improving our processes and creating these kind of new normals. And so if you've gone through, if you're experiencing or going through some of these changes that you think could be beneficial for your position, for the organization, make a note of that and write that down and document what your process is, what you're working on, and how that works. If it's teleworking or something else using technology, we definitely, I think, are going to learn a lot from this process of ways that we can be better.
Yeah. Yep. And
Okay.
I think the only thing I'd like to add on to that is definitely we saw some really innovative things, and how we deployed our technology very quickly. And it wasn't just deployment of it; it was how it was deployed and how we leveraged that to really get things done quickly. Those are opportunities I think I would like to look at and see how we can maybe incorporate that in the future. Is like what does working from home look like for certain job classes? Is that something we can do? I don't have the bandwidth right now to unpack that and do a full assessment, but I would like to do that at some point and say, hey, what jobs really would be good for teleworking, for like longer term type things. But today I don't have the bandwidth to do that. Michelle's up to her eyeballs in things, but I think at some point we'll circle back on that.
Okay, Lisa Olson, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you have the floor.
Thank you. So obviously we've all been mostly all consumed by dealing with COVID-19 everything lately, and understanding that you don't have a crystal ball to look into the future, but how do you see this once things are somewhat back to normal operations? How do you see this changing our priorities going forward?
Like Lisa, like what do you mean our priorities? Like,
so overall, I mean, like we were working on SIP things. We were working, I mean, there were lots of projects that were in process before all of this.
right.
And how, what is that going to look like now going forward?
Yeah, so a lot of things, you're right. This whole COVID thing kind of sucked the air out of, literally it consumed everything that we did. And like I said, this is an unprecedented time. But I think from a priority standpoint, we're still organized as a borough. We have functions that we provide, and there's things that we need to do because people are expecting us to do them, and we're charged with doing them. So we're gonna keep marching forward. We'll probably, we'll hit the unpause button at some point on a lot of those projects and continue on. I know I put a ton of things that I was working on way to the back burner during this, but doesn't mean I'm gonna forget about them totally. But we gotta be sensitive to. Also, it's like we can't just bring staff back after being gone for 45 days and say, okay, everybody back to work. we're all done now. That's not going to work. We've got people haven't been at their desks in a while. They're not used to working in this socially distanced climate. We're wearing cloth face masks. What? And we got to do hand washing and cleaning, and we've got to work with visitors when they come in. There's all these things we've got to do to kind of work within this bubble of COVID so that we can keep our employees safe and keep our public safe, but at the same time keep going. So we're all learning. And my guess is as we transition from this COVID response into this COVID recovery, and I know, Lisa, you're going to be in the middle of the COVID recovery piece. You're already doing a lot of work on this. But as we transition through that as an organization and into the late summer, early fall, we'll probably get back to doing more of what we're doing, more of what we were doing, but it just will look different. It'll just look a lot different. And then the other thing too is we're not out of the woods yet. That the disease is still out there. It seems to be under control. It seems to be being managed well. But the first sign of trouble, Bryce and I are not afraid to pull the trigger and pull us right back into some of the more austere management methods that we went through back in March and April. But we're hoping we don't have to do that. We hope we can, keep staffs, safe by keeping the work centers clean, keeping social distancing, do that really well. Just be super hyper aware of what's going on around us, and if we follow the guidance that our health leaders have given us, we should be able to get through this. But yeah, it's going to look different, Lisa.
I think to add on to that too is things are going to look different. And I think the priorities that we had going into this, we're going to have to do a reassessment as an organization, probably as departments and as divisions, to look at what's important. And right now we're kind of in that reactionary phase. And so a lot of the decisions and things that we're doing are reactionary with recovery or trying to reopen facilities. And so that's completely understood. But as we start to get into the more normal, I think it's completely realistic to say that a lot of the things that we thought were important, or I won't say a lot, but some of the things that we thought were important before are probably not going to be as high on the priority list as they were when we went into this. And that's okay. The world has changed, and our work and our priorities need to reflect that. So there's definitely going to need to be some work done from, I think, at the director level within the divisions, and then at the mayoral level, at the administrative level as well, on what are the priorities moving forward. Because the reality is we're not going to be able to do everything that we were doing before. We've probably doubled our workload. And so we're going to have to prioritize.
Okay, well, we've had a few more people join over the last 30 minutes, so I'm just going to go over one more time real quick. If you have a comment or question, please go ahead and hit the icon at the bottom of the screen. Jacob just put his share screen up to raise your hand. And of course, remain on mute until I go ahead and call on you. If you don't want to express a concern or question over the audio, then you may go ahead and email fnsblistens@fnsb.us, and that will go directly to Lenine, and she will be able to read it aloud so that the mayor and the chief of staff can address it. All right, so our next person was Tracy Brand. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead, Tracy. Oh. Doesn't want to unmute. Hold on. Tracy, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just basically had a comment. First of all, I really just want to express appreciation to Digital Services and General Services for their hard work during this, getting all of us working at home up and running, solving problems, getting contracts to be electronic. Adobe Sign is amazing. We're able to approve contracts within a day, where before it would take up to 3 weeks. And in a situation like this, it would be never ending when a contract would get approved if it was done by paper. So I just really wanted to express appreciation to those two departments and all the folks that work in there for all their hard work. And thanks you guys for the administration for making sure that we're safe.
Thank you, Tracy. I do appreciate that, and that's a great point. We started to deploy all this technology, and we deployed it from a strategic planning sense back in like November, October, September, in the fall last year. We said we really got to pivot our technology so we can be more resilient. And never in a million years would I thought that we would be responding to this within 6 months of those decisions. So yeah, I think on one hand we got a little bit lucky, but on the other hand, the bigger hand is we had really great staff and really great resources able to deploy these things out very, very quickly and get them up to speed like super fast and very productive. So that's awesome. I'm also seeing that we hit 99 people on the call, and now we're down to 98. So let's cross our fingers. Maybe we can hit the century mark here in the next 30 minutes. So.
Oh, we did already.
Oh, we already did? Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes. Okay. Our next person we have on the line is Melissa Prince. Melissa Prince, you go ahead. I have unmuted you. There you go.
Hi there. I am also appreciative of the services that the borough is working on right now, especially the cloth masks. That's really great. I was just wondering if there are additional fittings going on for staff that might have missed the one like at the library. It was great to have that person come by and staff there. Are there additional fittings? Does anyone know?
Yeah, so we're still sourcing and pulling in cloth masks. Michelle Littell from General Services, she's bouncing around doing fittings as we need. If you need it, as you need it. So if we need to get her over to the library to do a fitting for you, let her know, and we'll make that happen. I got her busy working on mitigation plans and getting those kind of implemented. So it may not be like in the next day or two, but she's really good about getting out there and getting with people. And she's done a whole bunch of masks. I can't even remember. It's hundreds of them so far. I picked up a couple from her, but she's doing a good job.
Okay, we don't have anybody waiting in the queue. So Lenine, do we have a comment or a question that was sent to you?
Yes, I've got, so bear with me. I've got several of them here. So the first one I believe was already addressed, but I want to go ahead and read it on the air anyway. Will there be future possibilities to work from home in case numbers start to rise again? And the additional comment was, I very much appreciated the leave advance option. It was very generous and most appreciated in my household. So thank you for that comment. And let me get to the next one here. Oops, there we go. Topic says leave. If an employee is sent home for showing symptoms associated with COVID-19, are they able to take advantage of the federal leave program or no, only with a positive diagnosis? Would the employee have to utilize their own leave if there are just symptoms, no positive tests? Jim?
Yeah, so normally, so if employees are sick, we'd like them to go home. We have a pretty generous leave policy, and we provide quite a bit of leave for folks, so we need you to use your leave. But this is a little different. So if you get sent home for COVID reasons, what I need you to do is contact HR, and they have a very pretty well mapped out protocol on how to deal with the eFMLA and the FMLA pieces of that leave, and we'll get you in the right bucket, okay? And hopefully that answers the question.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving on. Next comment says, hi. In Germany and South Korea, spikes in COVID-19 have returned with the opening of the economies. What is the plan for when we get a new spike in the borough due to reopening? Will people be sent home again, or will we have to just go on as is? What is the infection threshold for the borough to shut down again?
Right. So we have a mitigation plan, and in the mitigation plan, one of the things we need folks to do, and I'm speaking kind of out of, with no particular order of importance, what I need folks to do is if you're sick, I need you to tell your supervisor that you're sick. If you test positive for COVID, you need to notify HR immediately. And the reason why we're doing this is we want to basically, one, get your work center cleaned up as quickly as we can and try to get it back to service as best as we can. There's probably going to be a delay, probably a number of days delay, but we want to try to get that back in shape. And number two is we want to make sure that we're notifying staff that may have been exposed and giving them the opportunity and the chance to kind of get some separation and so that they don't get sick. The idea is to keep our workforce as healthy as long as we can and keep them working as long as we can. With respect to what are we going to do if we see a big spike in Fairbanks as the economy reopens? Well, we're hoping that the governor's health mandates and the things we're doing as an organization and the new culture and the new norms that are kind of being established in the community, those are going to prevent us from having a health spike. We're not naive. We don't think that it's like a no-brainer that it's not going to happen. We're pretty confident that there's a good chance that we could see it come back in Fairbanks. The trick is how much of it comes back, at what is the level of growth, and how many folks get sick. We don't know, but it's just common sense as people start milling around and start to reintegrate and businesses start open. It just makes sense that if we see it's going to start popping up here and there. The trick is how manageable is it? If we start seeing cases in Fairbanks increasing at a rapid rate, we're probably going to take some actions in the borough that go back to how we were doing business in late March and through April. We're probably going to start sending folks away from the work centers and keeping them home. A lot of that also depends on what the governor does. The governor could issue orders that force us or require us to take certain actions. For example, if the governor was to issue another stay-at-home order, which is effectively a shelter-in-place order, we would have to comply with that, and we would, and we would probably start sending people home again. So I hope that answered your question. Mary, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that we've learned a little bit. The initial concern that we had in this process from the healthcare perspective, the health industry was worried about being overrun, and so we've learned a little bit about what our capacity is. We've learned about what we can handle as a community, and I'll tell you. In fact, we were on a call today with the Unified Command, which is Foundation Health Partners, TCC, the borough, the cities. And looking at those indicators of what would be something to look at, and I think one of the things that we're concerned about is that community spread. So we have had COVID in the community. We know it's here, but what the health industry has said is that they're concerned about is when it's starting to spread person to person within the community. So that's where a lot of the preventative measures, the masking, the social distancing, the washing your hands, not touching your face like I'm doing right now, is really important to maintain your health. So those things are being looked at. We don't necessarily have like a threshold, if you will, for the borough. It's definitely has to do with capacity in the community to be able to handle the cases.
Yeah, we know a lot more about from the epidemiology side of COVID-19. We know a lot more about it than we did in the past, and there's a lot of things you might read in the newspaper and CNN or other news sources that don't quite match what the actual how this thing behaves. So really, it kind of comes back to getting your news from good news sources. FMH has been really great at providing really good information. And so has the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services, the public health folks, Liz Burton and her crew. They've been really, really good about helping us really understand how this thing works. And like the mayor said, we want to look. The last few cases that we've seen come through FMH, a lot of those have been from folks coming in from the outside of the community, and they've been caught in the 14-day quarantine period, which is really good, right? That social distancing measure actually did its job. Where we get nervous is if we start seeing the word community spread. It's like, okay, they're not bringing stuff in from the outside anymore. It's starting to spread among us. That's a way bigger problem. And our public health folks will keep us kind of in line and keep us informed about if that is starting to happen. And if that starts happening, that's when we'll probably start taking other measures. We're hoping it doesn't. We're hoping that the mitigation techniques and tools that we put in place will keep that from happening. And even more, it'll help us as an organization stay healthy and strong.
You know, and I'll add too, is for folks that maybe don't know what the Unified Command is, there's a lot that's been happening kind of behind the scenes and work that the borough's been a part of, maybe not necessarily the star player, if you will, but the Unified Command is a partnership that was formed between TCC, FHP, which is Foundation Health Partners, the hospital, and the borough to look at management of the crisis, management of the pandemic. And there's a lot of work that's been doing. We met, like I said, today, we meet weekly as a policy group where we look at these things like rapid testing. We look at how many of these rapid tests we can do in a community. What type of indicators do we look for to indicate that we've got a problem going on where we need to start looking at additional measures as a community. Our Economic Development Commission has been running really, really hard here for the last month via Zoom, this platform here that we're working on right now, and has put together a recovery plan where we're looking at how we can get our community back on our firm footing again, how we can help rebuild those industries that have been impacted and damaged because of the shutdown. In fact, Jim and I have been having long conversations as well as the CARES Act funding. Now that the legislature's approved releasing those funds, is how are we going to, what are we going to be able to recoup from costs that we've incurred as a borough? But then what also are we going to be able to, how are we going to be able to take those funds and put them back into the economy and get things turning again, keeping our businesses going? I know many borough employees have summertime jobs, or they've got small businesses that they do, and these are all important parts of our economy that we can't overlook. And we're definitely doing what we can to keep track of all these things and start to strategize how we can get back to at least where we were pre-COVID, and then continue the good work that we've been doing. So there's a lot going on out there.
All right, I'll jump in. I wanted to acknowledge one comment that came in. We've already answered it pretty much, but I just wanted to read it anyway. Given the possibility of a second wave of infections this fall and winter, are we putting plans into place for now for what things might look like at the borough? So we have already answered that, but I wanted to acknowledge that came in. And then the last one says, for the mayor, child care for essential staff in the time of crisis is paramount. Child care is important for most staff at one point or another during their lives. It's time for the borough to offer staff some sort of nearby and subsidized child care. Mayor Ward?
Yeah, thank you, Lenine. So this is definitely something that we've recognized as an issue across the community. And it's been brought to light here, I think, especially with the crisis that we're going through, the pandemic right now, is, we want to be supportive of employees and of the great work that everyone does. And I can tell you, as having a young family, that can be challenging. You haven't heard any shrieks in the background right now, I think, because they're watching TV or taking a nap. But it can be a huge challenge. And I know for many of our employees have expressed challenges and frustrations with the closing of schools or daycare facilities. And so, this is definitely something that we're aware of. It impacts our workforce. It impacts your ability to be productive, your ability to be at work. And we want to make sure that we're supportive of that. We're looking at options. It's not something that we've done before, but I think that there's options that we can consider out there. And I'm definitely interested in hearing ideas of what folks have. I know that there's other industries that have taken other approaches to this, and we're going to be looking at that stuff because we know it's an issue.
The floor is open if there is anybody who's interested in submitting a comment or a question to Mayor or Chief of Staff.
I saw Kristen's hand go up. Did she chicken out on us? She's still on with us? There she is.
Well, Kristen, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Well, my question kind of got answered, but I do have another one that kind of goes with it. My question was also about childcare. I didn't know if you had heard anything from the state level yet on how they're planning to move forward with some of that stuff. I know there's certain things that are opening. I thankfully have been lucky enough to secure summer camp spot for Zach, but I just didn't know if you guys had any other information on that. And with that, how are we moving forward with things that we've canceled or rescheduled, like, senior games and, awards and things like that?
So that's a lot of question, Krista. Thank you. So on the child care from the state, obviously the state's pushing out health mandates and the governor's reopening plan. He's in phase 2 now of that. And my guess is he'll probably loosen things up in his phase 3. But then, again, the state epidemiologists and the public health folks could change the governor's direction and push things back towards kind of tighten things up again. Child care centers, that's really hard to maintain social distancing in there. I'm pretty confident that they are, social distancing and keeping things clean. I'm confident that the governor's staff and advisors are taking all that into consideration and making decisions as best they can. I know my wife is an educator, and they're having conversations now about what the school year looks like next year. And it's not clear right now how the school district is going to actually open up in the second week of August. And that's just literally right around the corner when you think about how long it takes to spin up a school year and spin all that stuff up. It's coming. And so there's a lot of unknowns, Krista, and hopefully we'll get some of those questions answered here real soon. As far as like other events, what we've kind of been doing is, as if we can make the event fit with the social distancing requirements and the governor's orders, we'll go forward with it. Obviously, some things are probably not good things to do, but like, for example, commission meetings, we've canceled all the non-essential meetings, and basically we considered a meeting not essential if they don't have a piece of business or an item for action that they have to take. It's not essential. We can bounce it until we have to do it. There's a couple, so we've pretty much been doing the Planning Commission, the Planning Board, and Economic Development Commission, but there's some things out there that really kind of need to get going. So I know Sandra's on there. I saw her on the phone. So we're going to have to get an Animal Control Commission here together soon, because there's a piece of legislation they need to review and comment on before it goes back to the Assembly. But unless they've got other things they need to do, they can sit idle for a while. But it just takes resources and time, and we don't want to overstretch that if we don't need to. As far as like senior games and other events, if we can reschedule those when the time is right, we'll do it. If it makes sense to bounce it a year, we'll talk about that too. I know just yesterday I was on a call with AML, and we're talking, is it time to maybe cancel the summer AML session this year and not do that? We're supposed to host that in Fairbanks this year. So every organization is making decisions about those kind of things right now. We're not alone. We're not doing this in a vacuum. Everybody's doing it together.
And I think what you'll see for a lot of the activities is you'll probably see them slip 6 months to 12 months. We may just lose the year for some of those specific events. Not saying we're not going to do those things, but I think just in light of everything that's going on, that might be the safer path to take. On the other hand, too, is looking at things like this, what we're doing here with Zoom, where we're able to use technology to do something different. So I think some of our events are going to be different, and that's okay. I'm actually really excited. I think as we look at the rapid innovation and implementation of these changes that we've done, it really goes to show that we can do it if we have to. It's not necessarily something that's always a pleasant experience, but thank goodness that we instituted Teams. Thank goodness that we had the technology staff that were able to support these rapid movements in technology. I can't even imagine where we would be if we didn't have our DS team and our general services team who were able to jump through some phenomenal hoops to get us to where we are today. So things are going to look different, and it's going to be unpleasant, but that's okay. I think it's going to bring us to a place where we probably never would have gone if we had not had something pushing us. And right now it's the COVID. But you know what? If we let it, it will make us better people and a better organization.
Yep. As weird as it sounds, you just never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So we made the best of this, even though it kind of stunk for about a month. But we did good. We're doing better. All right,
So-
Winnie, you got another comment? You sent me a quick chat,
Yes.
let me know there's more coming.
Yes, I sure do. So it's a question concerning childcare, and it says, bear with me just a moment. I clicked screens here. For the childcare provision of FEMLA, is that 12 weeks worth of hours if you are using it intermittently, or is it a consecutive 12 weeks from the first day you took it?
Okay, so this is my understanding of it, and I think Michelle's on, but it's 10 weeks. So it's 10 weeks of child care FEMLA, but it's like 10 weeks of what your normal duty hours are. So if you were to split it, like you were to do 4, like work half time under FEMLA, and like, because you need to be working with your supervisor on kind of how to deal with that. So if you need like half days for FEMLA, you can stretch that out over a longer period of time. That's my understanding. Michelle, is that accurate? I just called Michelle out, I know. She's probably sleeping.
Unmute.
Let's see where she's at.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh.
Michelle's there, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. There's also a 2-week period where you can use like a sick leave. So essentially it is 12 weeks. So the child care provision is 10 weeks, and then there's a 2 weeks of the sick leave that you can use towards that, which extends it to 12. But you are correct, it's based on your FTE. So if you're a full-time employee, if you're part-time, it's going to be less. And yeah, if you're working intermittently, it would be extended too.
Yeah, so I think the takeaway is there is that provision. It goes out. It's it's mandated by law, and it goes out to the end of the year. And if you think you need access to those benefits, let's put you in those buckets as quick as we can and make it work for you the best we can. Kind of keeping the wheels on the bus with the way we do business. But let's see what we can do to make it work. And Michelle and her crew are they're pretty well wired in now to how these things work, and they can get you set up. You got another
So
one?
don't
Wendy?
appear to.
Yes, I do have one more I'd like to go ahead and share, please. One moment. I just clicked away. All right. Comment for administration. Over the last few months, the administration has been tasked to make many vital decisions in a short amount of time. Thank you for your hard work and long hours working on this unprecedented issue. So thank you very much for that comment. Jim?
Is that a comment or a question?
It was a It was a comment, but I thought you might want to follow up with something. Or Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of decisions very quickly. Sometimes, and I will tell you that if we were using our older technology tools to make those decisions, it would have taken us away longer. I know Tracy mentioned that, but I mean, Adobe Sign, Teams. I mean, I remember one evening we didn't have a whole lot of time. I think it was on a Sunday evening. Things were going sideways quickly, and I think it was me and Wendy Dow and a couple other folks. We banged out a policy call like literally in a couple hours. And if it would have just been normal ops, we would have taken weeks, probably days at least to do that. But I mean, it was the technology that enabled us to move that quickly. Yeah, we were tired, but we were able to do it quickly because, one, we had the time, we were time bound, we had to do it quickly, but we also had the tools, and that's what made it work. But yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to go back to that. It's scary making decisions, those kind of decisions that quickly, but in the fog of everything, you do the best you can with what you got and you go forward. Mary, you got any comments on that?
Yeah,
No.
really kind of an interesting observation has been, I feel like that the time that we've had and the decisions that we've had to make, we've been a lot more effective with the time that we've had. And so that's kind of it's probably, it's obviously out of need. We've needed to make decisions quickly, and we've needed to move on things. I can remember it was one of these evenings here, we're working on a Teams document, and there was 3 or 4 of us in there typing away, and there was a little pink and blue cursors going back and forth on the screen, and it was really impressive. We were able to hammer out a document that if we would have done the normal emailing back and forth, or even teaming it back and forth, would have taken hours, if not days. And we literally got it hammered out in like a couple hours. So, I've been really impressed with staff's ability to step up to the plate and perform under just, some really phenomenal, unprecedented circumstances. And I've just been really impressed. I just want everyone to know that I've been very thankful for all the work that you guys have been doing.
Okay, Lenine, so I think we got time to do a couple more and let folks get on their way for the day.
All right. What last question I have here is, what is the organization doing to get prepared for fire season?
Mm-hmm. So we are aware of that. So, and we started talking about this back in early March, Mayor, with the Unified Command. That was actually one of the strategic objectives at the policy group gave the Unified Command was not only are we dealing with this healthcare crisis that we're managing, but guess what? We also have this other threat, these 2 other big threats coming at us in the spring, and one is fire season and one is flood season. So we've been, the EOC's been kind of in a skeleton crew, kind of watching and monitoring what's going on. Bear has been sending us updates daily. And as far as fire season, he's been sending us updates daily on the floods. And as for fire season, we are aware that is a threat that's coming at us. So what we will do is, if we have a fire, we'll pull the playbook out that we did for Shovel Creek last year, and we'll run that playbook. And we'll stand up our EOC. We'll do the things we need to do, and engage in working with our state and federal partners with Type 2 or Type 1 crews, whatever comes up, and we'll mobilize this as best we can within the structure in this new COVID bubble that we have. It's probably not going to be easy. We're probably going to need more resources if we have an event, but there's a playbook that we could run, and my guess is that we would probably get some kind of help in doing that. When we were launching COVID and we stood up our EOC, one of the plays you make when you get overwhelmed in that emergency situation is you call in another team to maybe help you out. That wasn't available. Every community in the country was going through the exact same thing we were. So there was really nobody on deck to help us with that. So we had to do it ourselves, and that was one of the reasons why we stood up the Unified Command. If we were to get a fire or a flood, my guess is, I haven't talked to David about this, but my guess is there would probably be some resources we could call in from the state or through other federal partners to come kind of help us out. So yeah, we are aware that it's coming, and if it stays dry and windy like this, the risk goes up and up. It keeps going up. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, so we've got pandemic, flooding potential, fire potential. Just no one call in the aliens and we'll be all right.
Stop. But I have confidence in our ability to respond to that stuff. It may be a little messy in the first stages, but we're gonna dust off our playbook. We're gonna use the resources that we have. We're gonna get after it and do the things that we're tasked to do. We may be a little tired, but we'll get it done. And I think we'll perform well. And we've learned, right? I think we're more resilient as an organization than we were this time last year. And that's what, and when I was in the military, they called it battle hardening. And not that we're all going into battle, but we've gone through a very similar experience here in our organization. We actually did something very, very hard. And now we have the experience of going through that, and it makes us better.
So I think one of the things as we start talking about wrapping up here is, I feel like this has been a really effective format for us to be able to have employee chats, and I think we're definitely gonna try to incorporate this into the future as we can keep the channels of communication open and hear from you and have you hear from us as well from the administration. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you think this is a good process for us to continue, if you find it to be productive. The other thing too is as we've gone through all these changes, if there are things that you found as kind of insightful or ideas that you have for change on our processes or our formats, make a note of those and share them with your directors and bring them to Jim and I. This is a great opportunity. I think we should be talking about hot wash and how we can kind of learn from some things in this that we probably wouldn't have known about ourselves as individuals, as an organization. So take the time to make those notes, even if it's just a little sticky that you stick on the computer screen of a few things. Those are all really helpful when we finally come to the end of this, whenever that may be. But it's really going to help us become better, and I just want to encourage you guys to do that and just say thank you to everyone for participating. If you see my screen flashing back and forth, there's chats and there's this, and we're managing a bunch of stuff all at once. But something that I think is really impressive with our Zoom meeting is that within the last 2 meetings, we've had over 50% of our employees tuning into this. So that's a phenomenal way to reach into the organization. And thank you to Digital Services and Lenine and the team in the office there that have helped pull all this together. This I think has been a really great format for us to be able to communicate. I want to do more of it.
Yeah. I think, Mayor, the last call, folks seem like doing something like this every couple of weeks would probably be well received, and it's pretty easy to pull off. So I think be on the lookout for these types of meetings. We'll do them probably every couple of weeks ago, pick a Friday afternoon or something. I'll have Lenine and Jacob figure out a better time, and we'll stay on a schedule like that. And I'm getting a text from Jacob. He's saying we're getting Lenine. She's getting those on the schedule now. So yeah, good job, Lenine. Thank you. So I think that's it for the afternoon. I want to get you guys back. I want to respect your time and keep you on schedule. Real quick, happy belated Mother's Day to everybody who was moms. I didn't get to say that the last one. Thank you for everything you do as moms. I appreciate that. And for everyone else who's also maybe not a mom or are moms, or thank you for everything you do in the organization. It's been weird the last month and a half, 2 months, but I think we're going in a direction, and I think we're just going to keep going and just keep doing the best we can with what we got, and providing the best services that we can to our community. So thank you.
Hey, Jim, can I jump in real quick before we close off here? I just wanted to let everybody know I got a really nice phone call today from a longtime Fairbanks resident. I don't know who she is, but she said she wanted to let everyone in the borough know that we are doing a great job. She's been monitoring things that she's seen in the media. She's been, staying very in tune to this. And I just thought that was really nice. So many times we get the nasty, grim phone calls all the time, but this lady who's an elder, she took the time to call us, and she asked that I please pass that on to everybody, that all departments are doing a great job. So there we go, our way to end it today.
There you go. Okay, well, I guess that's it. So we'll close up this Zoom meeting and be on the lookout for the next one. Have a good day, everybody.